Ontario and Quebec don't effectively, the NEB process is what it is. And if they approve a pipeline, that's the law, the rules of Canada, that the pipeline goes ahead. But I think we need some moral support for it too in those places where it is. If they have concerns or if there is opposition, we should be engaged. The truth in this will prevail. This is also about adding more value to oil. We've had the opposition to pipelines in the past has been, and reasonably so, that when you pipe out the raw product, you don't actually add any value to it here. This is actually going to add value to Canadian oil at refineries in Atlantic Canada who need the work, need that employment. It just makes a lot of sense.
Brad Wall of Saskatchewan. Lisa Mrazek is in Saskatchewan. And Lisa, the Premier had some strong words for the rest of the provinces in this country.
Yeah, he definitely did, Jerry. He actually had his State of the Province address yesterday in Regina, and of course he took the opportunity to talk about how strong Saskatchewan's economy continues to be, how we're continuing to attract people from across Canada and around the world. But really, a really large chunk of his speech actually focused on the need to continue to diversify our resource industry here in Saskatchewan, and a lot of that is oil. We have a large oil industry here in the province, as most know by now, and he says the fact is we're not going to be able to develop that industry as we need to if we don't have new pipelines. And of course then he focused in on Energy East, which he thought, out of all of the pipeline projects we have proposed, Keystone, Northern Gateway, he really thought Energy East is really a no-brainer. It's a straightforward project. 2/3 of it is already in the ground because, of course, it's a conversion of a natural gas pipeline. So we really only have to build 1/3 of it. So he thinks, this is a straightforward project. This is going to be great for Saskatchewan, for Alberta, and, of course, for all of Canada because we all, rely on each other for equalization payments and that sort of thing. So, of course, he said the opposition or sort of conditions put out by Premier Wynne and Premier Couillard of Quebec were just sort of really caught him off guard. He said he was really quite shocked by it and concerned. He didn't expect there to be controversy. He's actually spoken with her, as I understand, on Monday by telephone. He said they had a very frank and honest discussion, and he basically told her some of the things that he's been touting to Saskatchewan people and, getting the message to her that he's been trying to get to Canadian people. And really this was good for not just Alberta and Saskatchewan, but for all of Canada. So I really think he's trying to push that to her and really, explain to her that they don't need these conditions because they already are a part of the National Energy Board's process. And he especially had some words about their greenhouse gas analysis or call for greenhouse gas analysis, Jerry.
What did he mean with the term, there's no point in our being Boy Scouts in Saskatchewan?
Well, I think because, of course, Saskatchewan has always been a bit of a team player, been cooperative. But, I think he really has been pushing for these pipeline projects, and he's going to continue to be an advocate for them. So just going back quickly to the greenhouse gas emission analysis that Premier Wynne and Premier Couillard have called for, he says this is something that they're going to fight against because he said when you look at central Canada, he said, I have never heard any leaders, any premiers in that part of Canada call for a greenhouse gas emission test or ask any other countries that Canada currently imports oil from, ask them for their greenhouse gas emission footprint. So here's a little bit more of what he had to say about that after his State of the Province address yesterday in Regina.
I've never heard interests in central Canada ask about the GHG footprint of oil from Venezuela or Algeria or Iraq that Canada is currently importing, that our Canadian oil would replace. So it seems to me that they want to hold Western Canadian oil to a higher standard than foreign oil that we're importing. That doesn't make sense to me.
So, Jerry, he really says that makes no sense at all. He says Canada has really the 3rd largest reserves of oil on Earth. So why wouldn't we be proud of the fact that we could become energy self-sufficient, energy independent, and not have to rely on imports from countries that don't have as good of environmental standards that we have in Canada, don't even have very good human rights records. And so why would we want to import oil from these countries? Why would we want to rely on Western Canadian oil that is developed responsibly? Of course, there can be improvements made in environmental and those regards. But why would we want to use oil from Canada in Canada?
And briefly, Lisa, I take it that what Brad Wall was also talking about is the ability of companies centered in Saskatchewan to compete for contracts on business in other provinces, like Ontario, for instance, and that if there was going to be some kind of roadblock to their doing that, then maybe it would get tougher for Ontario companies, other provinces, to take on business in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of companies here that can, of course, benefit from having a pipeline like Energy East. Of course, that would actually bring Saskatchewan oil onto the pipeline, unlike some of the other projects, Keystone, Gateway. Those projects wouldn't actually have Saskatchewan oil in it, but this would. So this would result in a direct benefit to Saskatchewan, a huge investment, and of course would also reduce the differential in the price of oil, because of course Saskatchewan and Alberta can't get enough of their oil to Tidewater to market fast enough. We're relying on rail and other ways that aren't as safer. Or, so if we had more pipelines, we could get it to market quicker, therefore reduce that differential. And that would add about $300 million to Saskatchewan's economy. I think about $3 billion to the entire industry in the province, and that's just Saskatchewan. And of course, the more money and more revenue that we can bring into Saskatchewan, that means more than for Ontario, Quebec, regionalization as well. So really everyone can win here, Jerry.
Lisa, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Jerry.